Have you ever seen a picture and your first thought is, damn, this could be an album cover, or it receives a bunch of comments along those lines? Maybe you took a photo that you really liked and thought, if I had a band, we could use this. Or maybe you and your friends had a really aesthetically pleasing photo taken at a party and you thought that it would look nice as the cover for an emo band's album. We see this with artists as well. A complex painting or a simple drawing could both make fantastic album covers. But why is it that we turn to that phrase, "This will make a great album cover"? Why are we so quick to take this work of art and desperately want to attach it to another work of art that it wasn't intended for? And why music specifically? We don't often hear, "This will make a great book cover." Sometimes you might hear someone say, "This could be a movie poster." But that often aligns with the artist's intentions. People don't always intend to make something look like it belongs to music. And what is that quality that makes something suitable for an album cover? What does this and this have in common? The first place we can turn to for our answers is with the artists. What do they know that we don't? This is Stanley Donwood. You might recognize this, or this, or this. These are all covers for Radiohead albums that Stanley Donwood worked on. As Stanley describes, he feels the impression of images as he listens to Radiohead's music. The music feels visual.
When I've been painting with Radiohead playing music, I find their music very visual to me. It looks like something.
But interestingly, Stanley also takes from various other influences, other than the music.
Kid A was very influenced by the various wars in what had been called Yugoslavia and all of the news footage of that. All of the work for OK Computer was I was in a self-willed nuclear winter. I was looking out the window and imagining it after nuclear weapons had been exploded.
When making something for an album cover, it isn't always enough to be influenced entirely by the music. This might not be the case for every artist, but any time an artist does commit to creating an album artwork, they are, even if subconsciously, influenced by other factors. Not because the music isn't enough, but rather because our artistic styles are grown from our influences and our experience as artists. When listening to Mr. Donwood speak about his process, it can be easy to forget how limiting the task of creating artwork for an album can be. Consider the mountains of album covers for 2010s EDM, dubstep, pop, and techno that all look quite similar. That isn't to say that there aren't some truly beautiful artworks in those genres, and they certainly can be accurate to the music. For example, I would say that this is a pretty good descriptor for what Skrillex's music sounds like. I'm no expert on this industry, but for many albums across every genre and decade, the artwork can feel hollow, nondescript, or even ugly. But sometimes musicians appropriate a pre-existing artwork for their album. The musician or band don't always get final say on what their album artwork looks like, but when they do, and they use a pre-existing work, it implies that the music and artwork have some kind of kinship. This is illustrated perfectly by The Caretaker, who uses artworks that are thematically relevant to the music, and certainly carry that kinship that I mentioned. These artworks are definitely apt yet surreal descriptions of what The Caretaker's music sounds like. If I were to guess, I would say we see this more often in metal and its subgenres than most other genres. Ufski used this painting by Hans Andersen Brindekilde for their album, and please excuse my pronunciation, Ufta Yegdruma Migdut. Here the artwork is used as is. The content of the album transforms the piece from depicting someone collapsing from exhaustion with no help around to something that almost confirms he is dead. The man is old and withered. The fact that it is placed on a metal album provides context given by someone who didn't originally make the artwork. This context seems to confirm that the artwork, when it appears on Ufsky's album, depicts a death, where Hans Andersen Brindekilde may or may not have intended the fate of the man to be so obvious. Yes, the woman appears to be grieving, and yes, given the way the man is depicted and their surrounding area, it's likely that Brindekilde intended for us to conclude that the man died. But the point I'm trying to make is that when artwork is appropriated for and applied to music, it builds upon the context for both. It is the defining visual for what we are hearing, and what we are hearing becomes the soundtrack for what we are seeing. Sometimes this kinship is taken to another level, where the art comes from someone extremely close to the music. Alex G's album artwork came from family members, specifically his mother and his sister. I'm not sure if you'll get what I'm saying, but to me it adds such an intense earnestness to the perception of these albums. With these album covers, they seem like something homegrown, small, made by a small artist for a small community. Having listened to Alex G since 2018, I'm surprised that as he got more popular, that feeling only became further cemented, especially on House of Sugar with songs like Gretel, God Save the Animals, and even his most recent album at the moment, Headlights. I mean this in the best possible way, but these album covers feel like something you would take a chance on at a thrift store, only to be surprised you've just found your new favorite album. I can't help but feel like that is intentional. Okay, maybe not that specific scenario, but it feels like a complete, well-realized artistic vision. So this gives us a clue as to why, when we see images and artwork, we instinctively see it as something that could be used as an album cover. We more than likely already have an idea of how that album might sound. These are some random stock photos I've grabbed. I haven't edited them at all. All I've done is crop them into squares. Your interpretation of what these albums sound like might be different from mine, but it's undeniable that they do have a certain vibe and that you could apply a sound to them. And I'm going to go through them one by one and let you know what I kind of see as what the genre could be and everything. Okay, for this first one, we've obviously got some dark, gothic, church imagery. It looks like it could be part of a cathedral or something. The first place my mind goes to is black metal. There's a really strong contrast. You see this often on like Dark Throne albums where 90% of the album cover is black. I don't know, the church imagery could be ironic. I mean, we've seen Christian imagery get used all the time. Most times with like blasphemy in mind. Batushka comes to mind, for example. So I think it fits. I think black metal works for it because I can't really see it fitting any other metal genre that well. And I can't really see it working for something like Ghost, even though, the imagery is along those same lines, but it's not really subversive in that same way. So I'm going to go for black metal on this one. For this one, we've got a wintry landscape with a tiny little house. And the first thing that this makes me think of is Bon Iver or Bon Iver or however you pronounce it, Forever Ago. I get really strong association with that. That might be because I know that album was recorded in a little vacation house. So yeah, I'm getting like a really folksy kind of 2010s sort of indie kind of feeling. Something along the same lines as Forever Ago. But obviously that's influenced by context. This one's probably so obvious. I think the first thing anyone would think of is a Christmas album, but to me, it's specifically like a Christmas compilation album. I think that's probably because there's no real indication of who the artist might be. Okay, maybe it's like a specifically piano renditions of Christmas songs or Christmas carols even. So if I had to get as specific as possible, yeah, let's say it's a cover for a compilation of piano renditions of famous Christmas carols. Let's go with that. So this one I feel like is the broadest, right? Like I don't really have anything that is contextually similar to this at the top of my head. Can't really think of an album that I've seen that really looks like this. I like this person being distorted by motion. The image is obviously also very dark. You wonder where they're going. It looks quite liminal in a way. But to be honest, I kind of get like something more synthetic. I get like a Duran Duran kind of thing from this, based in techno or something along those lines. I wouldn't say like as far as dubstep, but maybe something, okay, yeah, maybe something like Pastel Ghost or Sidewalks and Skeletons. I think that is definitely the vibe that I'm getting from this one. Something along those lines. I think if you colored this image purple, I might even do that. I might even edit them to look like what I feel like they are. And you guys can tell me how well that fits. Okay, so you know that I'm working on a video about album artwork and specifically how we interpret album artwork and why when we see random photos, the first place our brain goes to is this could be
an album cover, yeah.
Exactly. So I went and found a couple of stock photos that I thought could be album covers, and I had an idea of like what they would be covers for, but I wanted to get your interpretation of them.
Covers for
albums?
like genres.
Yeah, so like what you think that music might sound like. So you can say this could be for this band or this genre, or it reminds me of this song. It could be anything, just anything like music related, even if it's like a musical theater or something, anything.
Ooh.
What would you say that would be for?
Is there a right answer?
No, there isn't. There isn't.
Okay.
I just have my idea of what it would be for. So I wanted to know if like, you know, other people would feel that way.
Well, immediately gothic. Kind of orchestral maybe as well. So I would say this is pretty gothic, maybe something classic, maybe something orchestral. I'm getting a lot of orchestral vibes. Yeah.
Okay, orchestral. That's super interesting.
And you guys let us know what you think as well.
Yeah.
For each one. Ooh. This is giving me like indie vibes. Like something slow. Something slow, something mellow, something indie. Maybe even country as well. Oh, Christmas music. Christmas classics.
Music. Christmas classics, okay.
Christmas classics.
Nas.
Maybe some Michael Bublé in there as well.
Oh, hell yeah. That's when you know it's a good Christmas
Driving
compilation.
home for Christmas.
The 50th iteration of that song.
This one I don't know. I have no idea.
You got no idea?
No.
You can't think of anything that this could be for?
No, I don't know enough genres to know what this one is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it isn't. It's just...
No, I know. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think I would know what genre this one would be.
Like, if you saw this photo, you don't have any kind of sound in mind at all.
No, nothing's coming to me for this one. You do know more like niche, nitty gritty genres than I do though. Like, you know genres that I've never even heard of.
But if you said like pop, you know, that would be...
Nothing gave me poppy vibes.
Is it? Not even the last one? I thought maybe the last one might.
Maybe like EDM, if anything. But
that's also kind of along the lines I went.
But yeah, nothing really stuck out to me as poppy.
But that does mean that we were pretty close. I think out of 4, we said we got very similar for like 3 of them, I think. Yeah. So I'm pretty happy with how that experiment went. So now we know that an artist can hear music and create the interpretation of that sound. This creates something descriptive, personal, and specific that is applied to the music. On the other hand, bands and musicians can broaden the context of their art with pre-existing art. But there is a third option for how album artwork can come to be. That is when the musician themselves makes the artwork. When this happens, it takes that feeling of kinship between art and music to another level. I can think of few examples of this that are more perfect than Gerard Way's painting for 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge by My Chemical Romance. This album art feels preordained for the album, like there could never be in any other universe another album cover for this album. There is some bias here, considering how fond I am of the album. Of course I associate this cover closely with these songs, that's usually true for any album cover, but if you let me indulge my own bias, no one has done it as well as this. Another great example is Twin Fantasy, which is an exceptional example of something that is a well-realized, singular vision that embodies self-expression in every aspect. On the darker end of things, we have Reek of Putrefaction by Carcass. Jeff Walker, the bassist and vocalist for Carcass, made the collage out of images of real corpses, sourced with the help of his sister's medical journals, that was used as the album's cover. Naturally, this was controversial, because these are ultimately real people whose bodies are manipulated for a shocking aesthetic. Darker still, and I've spoken about this on the channel before, Euronymous used a photograph of the corpse of Mayhem's vocalist at the time, dead, that he took upon discovering him shortly after his brutal suicide. What have we learned? I think this phenomenon comes from a few things. It comes from our music tastes and the types of album covers we often see. If you're looking at metal album covers all the time, and you see some gory artwork, of course you'll think that would be a great album cover. The only real thing that can make an image look like it's supposed to be an album cover is the image being square. Aside from that, these images could have nothing in common. Just for fun, I decided to make this little art challenge / experiment. You take one subject, it can be a pre-existing art piece, your own art, a random photo, or even an existing album cover, and interpret it for different genres. You can do this with photo editing, traditional art, digital art, literally anything except AI, because that kind of defeats the point of going through the creative process and interpretation. I recommend listening to different genres to fully immerse yourself in what you're making. There is a link to the 4K version in the description, and we'll also pin it to our Twitter. So ultimately, what is the point of knowing all this? What is the point of this video? If you take anything away from this video, I sincerely hope that it's an appreciation for the way we connect through art. I hope you see new beauty in otherwise mundane photos and artworks. I hope you have a new appreciation for the artistry and intention behind album art. I hope you look at your own art differently, whether it's something that looks the way it does on purpose or accidentally. Whether something was made by the artist to complete their vision, appropriated a pre-existing artwork to add context to their vision, or commissioned something to expand on their vision, it is always done with a keen human eye and a soulful perceptiveness. I use the word soulful intentionally. I don't want to turn this whole conclusion into an AI rant, but as more musicians rely on it, I think it's important to look at what's lost. Yes, not every human-made album cover is great, but it is human-made. There is a connection to music that a person can grasp, that we can share in. Whether you are touching up an album artwork with AI or using it to conceive of what the album artwork should be, you have forfeited some of that connection. This is such a unique phenomenon for human beings. It's heartbreaking to see bands I enjoy, like The Offspring, willingly forego a human interpretation of their music and trade it in for a machine's best guess at what they want. And to me, that's just a shame. I don't know if it's just me, but AI images can never give me the feeling of this could be an album cover, because it just couldn't possibly speak to the soul the same way human-made album covers can. The best they can do is, this could be an album cover for an AI-generated album, because that's the only thing those images could have any kinship with. But what do you think? Who did album art the best and why? Of the 3 ways to select an album art that I've identified, which do you prefer? And are there any other ways to source album art that I've missed? Let us know in the comments. I'd love to keep this conversation going. Also, if you're one of our first 40 or 50 now subscribers, thank you for being here. The comments on the last few videos have really motivated me, and I've just recently started a new job, so those kind words have kept me coming back to our channel. I know 50 subscribers isn't a lot, but I never thought we'd get any, and I certainly didn't expect to see such kind comments. So once again, thank you. See you next time.